same thing. Oh yeah, this is a little bit of a summary of how it looked like when we launched. We got very lucky that people understood the notion of what we were trying to create, which was this moments-based advertising model. So beyond just pieces of your screen or taking out an interruptive portion of it, it was rather when you're happy, when you're hitting an achievement, here's something that you love. So how do we solve problems with more? Now we've seen this in various business books. You have Guy Kawasaki with enchantments. How can you enchant people? Zappos with delivering happiness. How's happiness a business concept? It is actually very much core to customer service and how they were able to differentiate themselves beyond just technology. And then the thank you economy, exactly how through gratitude and how through reciprocity you can build a rapport with your customers. So 8 ways. First, well, never mind. I had a little bit of a preamble here. There are things that we're doing in terms of our technology that we like to talk about as buzzwords all the time. Social, real, virtual, games, services. This is all overlaid into mobile, which is why I'm so excited about mobile. But there's a reason why all of these things together accumulate to really the bottom line is, at the end of the day, the person using the phone is a human being. Right? It's a human being that's using it, so there's an emotional element behind that a lot of us as entrepreneurs trying to create web technologies have completely forgotten. And honestly, you guys in the room are all so young. I'm more scared of you than you are of me, mainly because of the fact that in 5 or 6 years, you'll have way more idea around how this technology has been part of your upbringing that I wouldn't have experienced. I feel old when I mention that I was, using Windows 95. All right, moments instead of touch points. So the first focus is on how instead of using features and functionality and little things you can do as levers, when you're talking about what you're building or whatever you're creating, it's about what your product can create in terms of positive moments. I'm talking moments of happiness, moments of improvement in someone's life. Why is your product meaningful in the first place? What is it doing for someone else? In Apple's case, for example, I don't want to use them as an example, but I just did. They're a very cliche example, mainly because of the fact that they do this one thing really well, which is using moments, right? They never display in their full-on mass advertising functions. They never say, oh, this can do that, this can do this can do that. All the visuals around their product sits in a moment or an environment that helps the product shine. And so using visual cues, us being very shallow as human beings, we look at this picture, it goes, oh, there's maybe a couple, I know their friends, whatever, they're playing with an iPad, they're obviously on vacation because they don't know French, and they're in front of the Eiffel Tower, which is awesome, because it's awesome and everybody wants to be baller in front of the Eiffel Tower. So there's little things around moments that Apple wants you to feel that allows you to tie these subtle messages to the product. Number 2 is serendipity. What I mean by serendipity is how you can create an experience that people create for themselves, if that makes any sense. Rather, you give people the flow and how they can stumble upon how they would use something. And this comes in the form of everything. You're looking at, for example, the much fabled Color app that everybody likes to rat on because of the money that they raise. One of the things that they've done well, I would say one of the biggest things that they did really well was actually how they were able to create air of mystery around their application and how you actually needed to use it. What was it for? Now they kind of fell on their face when people started asking out loud what it was for and they couldn't answer that question. But frankly, when you go through the app and you're able to sort of touch a few things, when people start playing with the app, the first thing that they do is they start touching things, right? And the thing is, when you tell a user how to use your stuff, it's actually like dictating to them. But rather, we're very democratic, we're very shallow, we want to figure it out how to use it ourselves. And actually, part of you figuring out how to use it yourself is this notion of you owning the experience yourself. Yabongo is the same thing. They've done it really well. In fact, their app is all about serendipity. It's actually, if you haven't used Yabongo, a serendipitous group chat app based on location. So basically, right now, if you would load up Yabongo, all of you in that room, you would all automatically be in the same chat room. How? I don't know. Magic. 3, knowledge and validation. So you can see a very familiar screenshot of a site called Flora in the background here. This is really a sort of a throwback to what I call the E moment, where, you know, not E as in like scared, but E as in you're really happy. More like when you get that little Facebook page, or when you get that retweet, or you get that upvote in Quora, how do you feel? You're like, oh, people actually give a shit. People actually care about me, or they care about what I said. That is a great notion of validation. That is a great notion of people around you caring about you. As human beings, we are wired to want approval and validation. And so one of the services do really well that I think adds to true emotion is this notion of you feeling happy that you've got something that people want. So namesake is another example. You'll notice on this page you've got everything from upvoting to popular comments to following. Is literally 4 or 5 different ways for you on that page to be interactive and create that E moment to everybody who's interacting with it in the first place. Form strength, they made it even more obvious. Smile at a question. Clearly emotional, right? They're trying to go after how people are implied to feel. Now, frankly, a lot of people may argue and say, okay, this is commoditizing emotion. Sure. But if you actually see how you add value to their lives as a result, you begin to create what I call emotional ROI. So how can you be able to have people return this emotional touch point that you've added to your product, what you've built? Again, Pat has smiley faces instead of words. It's like, how can we visually engage people with what they really like? And these are the things that we really learn to keep, right? When we're creating associative advertising, which is a formal term they use in psychological circles, it's sort of, when you look at the analogy of, okay, when you are at the carnival and you're playing that carnival game and you're throwing that ball and hitting those pins and you're trying to impress your girlfriend, you get this dusty stuffed animal that you really don't care about. All of a sudden, you care about it because A, it makes you look really baller in front of your girlfriend, and B, you now have a gift for her, and C, it's something that encapsulates those emotions. So there is the ability for you to transfer emotions to an inanimate object, and it's through hinging on achievements and people feeling happy about something that they've done that they want to feel has affected people in real life. And then I want to kind of quickly dive into how brands have created personality. They're literally like people, like human beings. The brands are like human beings in that there are things that they've done to make it got personality. On the bottom, obviously in the top example says these core values. Human beings have core values. Flickr, for example, they said, "Ni hao, Brian Wong." Obviously, I know how to speak Mandarin, so that wasn't really new news to me. But to a lot of other people, it's really cool to get taught little things. Does that have anything to do with photo sharing? No. But it's a great way to create personality and people actually feeling like your brand is like a human being, and to fall in love with it, because ultimately when you fall in love with something or someone, they're more easily forgiven. Foundations are big. GitHub is a great example of how or open community for people to contribute. Again, community and our need to be together, even though we kind of hate each other sometimes, we need to be, why do we live in cities, right? We need to be next to one another. We need to feel like we belong. And so one of the things that brands do really well, that have done this really well, is to sort of create a foundation of knowledge. And this next slide, everybody in the room must be huge nerds, so you know what this is, but this is actually from Facebook. Facebook created an open compute project that basically open sourced their entire server farm infrastructure. Why do they want to do that? Because they want to build stop skipping ahead before I tell you. They want to put together a program that allows people to understand how they can give back, and ultimately, so that everybody can contribute to that body of knowledge as well. WordPress, as we all know, open source, community, but also a corporation. There's a company that is able to generate revenue off of something that people now know is giving back. WordPress as a community revolutionized how content was created, how people can be publishers, how these things that we all take for granted was really a result of someone wanting to give something for free. That leads me to, what does giving something away for free really mean? Now, really, this is kind of self-explanatory. This is actually an email I got from MailChimp after signing up, or doing my first campaign. They sent me a free t-shirt. No questions asked, not even something that I knew was coming. They just sent me an email and said, shit's in the mail. This is a great way that we've seen on the corporate side, and even also in real life, of how we're doing gifting, serendipitous gifting. People feeling like they've got something out of thin air is amazing. And something that has to be, and notice the word serendipity again, is that it can't be expected. Because human beings, again, are very funny in the way that we actually start. So if every time I see you, the next month, every day, I give you a free Starbucks gift card. One day I give you $5, every day I give you $5. All of a sudden one day I give you $1, you'll feel like you got ripped off. Why? I mean, you weren't even getting this thing in the first place. All of a sudden, because you got less than what you were expecting over the course of time, you felt like you were ripped off. This whole notion of this feeling around being anchored to a value is something that we as human beings are very funny about. We make it random. We make it so that nobody knows when they're getting it. They just know they will. It's a great way to make it like crack. Character and process. So you'll notice that different services actually use characters of animals and things that are like sentient and living, and implying that it's something that you should love or something that you should care about. It humanizes and modifies a brand. It's a great way of building character around what you're creating as well. And the final one is Inception. Like the movie, except not using crazy technology to go into someone's dreams and modify shit. Really, Inception is around how you can create a vision that everybody around you can come up with themselves. Right? So emotionally speaking, how does this all matter, right? As human, again, as people, we want to feel like we own something as an idea. No matter what, even if someone else created it, we want to feel like we can contribute to it as well. And when something is handed to us and is shoved down our throats, it doesn't work. And so when you create a concept, when you create an idea, it's almost like going to someone's dreams. When I was creating the concept, I would explain the environment before the idea and help them come to the conclusion themselves. Being like, who likes mobile banner advertising? Nobody. What are people doing with games? Everybody is playing them. How can we leverage, things in games that are consistent across every game? Okay, well, badges and achievements and scores. Okay, what do we do with achievement? So building this type of roll-up, explaining why it was meaningful in the first place. So what happens when you don't do this? There's backlash, right? Between the brands of Apple and Sony, who loves the former better? Everybody, right? Nobody loves Sony, right? I feel really bad for them because they you know why though? They kind of ask for it, right? They do dumb things like sue people that try to make their products better. Anyways, I don't get it. So the final message is feel or die. Create emotions, create an experience, create moments that like they have ownership of, and then you will succeed and be able to differentiate. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Brian. So, San Francisco is around because after our next DC speaker, we are going to have another San Francisco speaker, Crystal.